Update. After a whole bunch of moving stuff around, forward and backward, up and down, I think I have found my happy place for mounting the seat. That's bolted down. That one right there is not bolted down. That ended up with the bolt hole falling underneath this too far. So I'm going to violate a principle, and I'm going to drill another hole over here, and I'm going to put a little bracket that slides over here. It's going to sit on this. It'll go down a 1/2 inch. It'll be welded to this piece right here. This is still loose. And I'm going to drill a hole right here for it to fit in. And all of this stuff right here should clear. So everything works. The seat has full travel. It goes up. It goes down. It goes forward and backwards. I wonder why that thing tilted up like that. It's not hitting anything on the floor. I must be doing it with my finger on the button. But anyway, this is where that's bolted down. And that one yet to be bolted down. And these up here are bolted there. In the original positions. Those are the original bolt holes for the seats on both sides. That right there was a curious little bracket. That was a pain to have to make. I had to cut the back out, had to cut part of the bottom out. It's still tucked up underneath that edge there just a little bit, but I was able to get a screw on it without any problem. So that will be bolted or welded together. This one will all be welded together. One other thing I want to do, I found on this back ones, run this thing up again. That's my little power supply right there I'm using to run these things. This rail right here is a little bit shorter than that rail. Damn it. Wish I had a way to hold the frickin' light. See if I can do this. There's a hole right here. The distance between this hole and this edge is a lot longer than it is from that hole to that back edge. So I'm going to cut that one off the same distance so that this part right here doesn't overhang into the back seat quite as much. And then I'll tuck up all this other stuff, all the wiring and brackets and stuff. This right here I'll make up a connector to fit that power and ground. But that's all I'm using on that side of power and ground. That's it. And all the controls of the seat work. I'll probably have to do something with the seat belt too, because it's different from the ones that came in this car. So I may have to pull the one out of my other seat and find a way to connect that up. But that's a problem for another day. Seat is in, the brackets are made. This guy over here was done. Now I've got a hole, and it'll be a 5/16 hole. Everybody is placed. Back of this has been cut off, and I'm happy with the outcome. So I'll drill a hole into the floorboard. I'll mark where that hole goes, drill that through, and one of these rib nuts is going to go in there. These things, this is what they are, called rib nuts. They're 5/16. You drill 17/32 hole in the floor. You push this thing in till it bottoms out on that flange right there. Then you hold this screw and you tighten this nut down, and that pulls this thing up and cinches the floorboard in between where this thing swells out. That knurled area right there actually expands and pulled up against the back side or the bottom side of the floorboard, and this flange right here stays on the top side of the floorboard and cinches this thing to the metal. And then you've got a screw that goes through it, 5/16 screw. So that's the only one that I'll have done. I didn't want to have to drill any extra holes in the floorboard, but there's no way around it with the way this thing lays in here. Anyway, this is all I got to do is mark these positions for this and this, weld those guys on. The two on the front are already welded on, they're welded together, and then I'll clean all that stuff up with a wire brush, paint it, and this seat will be done after hooking up the power underneath the seat. We've got all this stuff here. Okay, I have drilled a hole in the floor. This was the original hole. This is the hole that I've just drilled, and I'm going to put this rib nut through there. That thing is really snug the way it fits, so I got a bolt through it. I'm going to see if I can drive it down through that hole. That's a 17/64 hole. Is that in the view? Yeah. We'll get a hammer and see if I can knock that thing down. Carpet and all that crap is away from it. That's all the way down now. So now the trick is to get a 1/2-inch wrench and snug this thing down while holding that. This carpet's a pain in the ass. Okay. Now, let's start snugging this puppy down. Make sure it's staying down good. It's starting to snug up. I'm not sure how much I'll be able to pull this thing. Boy, that's pretty doggone snug there. I need to get underneath it and see. Okay, you can see I need like 2 more hands, but that thing fit in there. Let me take this thing off and go underneath the car and take a look at how well it's cinched up. I can keep my fingers off the buttons in instead of doing the camera. Okay. I don't know where it is. Oh, there it is, right there. Yeah, that's cinched up. I think we're good. I'm going to put the seat in, I'll tighten it up a lot more. Okay, just before I get all the stuff welded up and installed in the car, I wanted to shoot the bottom. This is the rail that I cut off. Looks like it's still just a smidge longer than that one, but those guys are in the right spot. These guys welded on. That one welded on. And this one to be welded on. But, oh, I drilled 5/16 holes on each side of all of these because I'm going to puddle weld those to this rail here. I've already done these in the front. I'll do these the same way. I think that'll be stronger. Since my welding is not anything to write home about, I'll tack it here, I'll tack it here, and instead of down this top right here, I'm going to puddle weld these 2 holes here. I think that'll do it. But that's it. Okay, before I did all the final welding, I came out here and did a lot of measuring inside the car. What I did is I measured the distance from here to here, from there to there, across this way, and in diagonals. Wrote those down to make sure that the holes in the seat would be right. Those are my measurements right there. And then I took and measured all of these. Now these 2 are already welded on. These 2 are just, they're loose. They're tied on there, but they're not welded on. And I discovered that the distance from here to here was a little bit short. So I went in and put it in the mill, took this bracket off, put it in the mill, extended that hole just a little bit so I won't have to have troubles getting this thing to fit in the floor. The seat's not all that heavy, but trying to, by myself, to wrestle something this big and bulky through that hole and get it to line up and sit on those studs is a little bit of a fun challenge. It's not too bad. It can be done. but I'm trying to make it as easy on myself as I can. Anyway, my next step is to weld those things off and grind them, and then prime them and paint them, and then put them in the car, and then I'll be ready to start the driver's seat. Okay, everything is now welded in. Still got a little bit of cleanup to do on that, and then I'll paint it black so all the nastiness won't show, and most of the welds will be toward the bottom. My welding is getting better the more I do it. They say practice makes perfect, and boy, I've got a lot of practicing left to do. But that's where we are right now. I'm going to shoot some etching primer on this. Now, next I'll shoot the paint on it after that dries for a little while. It's been a little while, so I'm now going to try and shoot this. Paint the car. That's the best I can do until that dries, and then I can flip it over and do the top side. Got the things turned back up on its top now. I've got the seat powered up. I'm going to shoot some black paint on the top of it where it can be seen, and then this guy will be ready to go in. This is the easy part. Now, I have to do the front ones. So I've got this little power supply hooked up so I can run this thing back. It's sitting up on 2x so I can expose the brackets from the top here. That ain't a problem. Okay. Next thing is to let that dry and then put it in the car. And we'll see how that works out. Cool. Got the driver's seat out, so, and I've got all the seats out, well, except the back ones, of course. But I measured the location of these studs right here for installing the fabricated brackets for the new power seats, and they're going to work okay. So then I came over and removed this other seat, and looked at the hole locations for them, and I measured the distance between all of these like I did the other one, including the diagonals, and I came up with a discrepancy here and here. Came up with a 1-inch discrepancy. So then I was thinking I was going to have to develop another set of dimensions, and then it dawned on me that this hole on that side over there, I had to re-drill out here because of interference for some reason. I don't remember why. But once I realized that and marked the location of where this new hole has got to go, everything worked out. So all the bracketry that I will fabricate to put this seat in should be exactly the same as the one on the passenger side, except mirror image. So that's the position I'm going to take. I'm going to go now and cut that other rusty channel I've got, all the pieces out to length, rough them out, put them in a vapor rust overnight and let them clean up. And then tomorrow I will start cutting tops and drilling holes and all that happy stuff and getting them ready to bolt onto the seat. I'm happy. Okay, this is the passenger seat right here. I cut all of the blanks for the pieces. Now I'm cutting the tops out of them. This is the last one. WD-40. This is done quite well. Anyway, two long ones, and these go in the front. This one is one in the back, and this is the second one goes in the back. And once I'll finish that, I'll move on to the next step, prepare the cross pieces. Moving on, this is a couple, 3 or 4 days later. I've been having other projects. These guys are cut, ready to weld on. They're marked. They have been set in the car, and they fit. And these guys will fit here, there, and then this one fits here. With these edges lined up. So once that's welded, it'll be tack welded these two spots here. I actually made these things wrong. I drilled the wrong end of it after I had cut this channel right here. I cut this down just to get it out of the way because it'll be sticking up. It'll be sticking up when it's in the car. And I wanted it to be as low as possible. So the rails are ground down, ready to weld. Once I get that done, I'll prime them and paint them, and then put both of them in the car. The one thing that I noticed is that when I test fitted these things yesterday, these seats seem to fit higher in the car than the originals. I hope that once I bolt them down, that comes down. because what I noticed when I was autocrossing this car before with the original seats is that with a helmet on, my head was almost in the headliner, and it didn't take almost just a shifting in the seat, and my head would bang in the headliner. If these seats are higher, then that may cause a problem with the helmet if I choose to autocross this car anymore, unless I get something like a skid lid or something like that. Oh, this is that little power supply that I'm using to power the seats. Little Chinese job. It says it's 30 amps. I'd be real surprised if it puts that anywhere near that. But it does power this seat just fine. I got it disconnected there, but that's it till I get these things welded on and painted. Quick update, all of the brackets, well, 3 of the brackets are welded on now. This guy, this is the driver's seat. That one's not on yet. This one's on. Since the distance between these things is a little sketchy, what I will do is put the seat in the car, and this is the one that goes here, and I will slide him on and get him positioned and marked once the seat's in the car. Then I'll pull him back out and weld him on, wire brush them all down, paint them, and put this seat and the passenger seat in the car. I gotta set up a 12-volt wire source to power these things too, but that should be fairly simple. I've got a terminal strip underneath the console. It's got a big 12-volt bus on it, so I'll just take one of the terminals off it to run these guys. I'll bring you back when I got more.